Por él lo que, porque es el comprometido.
So back.
Start the meeting.
Stand by. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll start with a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag, it's America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment?
No, sir, no one signed up for public comments.
Okay, thank you. And I already welcomed everybody. This will be, I think I've been said about you, but
I'm sure they were all true too. That's what makes it very most.
We do have a change in the agenda, just to move things along. We did create a consent agenda. So we do have 3 items for the consent agenda, which include the approval of the minutes from the February 21st meeting, the bylaws for the Access Advisory Committee, as well as the fiscal agent's financial report.
do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Or would it be to approve all
To approve
all three?
the, make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All members that are for? Aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry, I forget about our members.
Okay, so then our next agenda item will be under the regular agenda. And this is the first one. I apologize, let me move the slides. This will be to discuss and take appropriate action to authorize the LGC chair to execute a notice to proceed agreement with Transdev for 88 paratransit services. And this would be done after review and approval by legal counsel. And so county staff and TTI have been working with Transdev for the paratransit services agreement, and a notice to proceed would be a great use to Transdev to ensure that the agreement will be executed at a later time if that's the case, but at least they know that we are, that the LGC is in support of this effort and would want to move forward and execute. Mr. Asad, is there anything else to make mention of the notice to proceed?
Well, I think in the interest of full disclosure to the board, the appropriateness of a notice to proceed under the circumstances that one is being recommended is still under review by me. I think if the board moves to authorize the LGC chair to execute the notice to proceed agreement with Transdev after review and approval by legal counsel, I think that is a proper motion that can be made, but with an understanding that it may not be necessary, that a notice to proceed may not be necessary. And I've discussed this with staff, and specifically with Ms. Mayorga. If you all recall, we've been working on a paratransit services agreement with Transdev, and then we put that on hold for a while to investigate other possible options. And then after we did that, we came back to Transdev, And so there was a lot of stop and go, which is part of the process. That's nothing wrong with that. But it wasn't until just recently that in our discussions with TransDev, we now have what I believe are the concrete terms of what the agreement's going to look like for the interim service, right? Between now and whenever the big RFP is done. So I'm going to meet with staff, and I'm going to recommend that we try and put all our focus and efforts into working on that agreement and getting it executed rather than using a notice to proceed. And the reason for that is I've looked into the notice to proceed that was recommended by TTI, and I've also done some outside research as to how do these notices to proceed get used in the transit industry. And it's just my overall opinion that if we can get the contract executed sooner, that will protect the events of the county much better than any notice to proceed. But not wanting to go against the wishes and recommendations of staff and TTI, I think if you all approve what the motion is today, that'd be fine, but with an understanding that it might not be necessary subject to additional discussions with staff. And I don't know how staff feels about that. So
essentially, it would be helpful to have the notice to proceed so that First Transit or TransDev, apologies, could do back-end preparation for the July 1st, go live date. And so my concern is that if the notice to proceed is not approved by the board today, then we would have to discuss the possibility of pushing that go live date maybe a month out, because I understand that Mr. Estrada wants to work on executing the agreement. If executing the agreement is the next LGC board next month, that would essentially give TransDev 6 weeks to prepare prior to July 1. And so I'm not sure if that's feasible time for them.
But we'd be on the safe side if we go ahead and take a vote.
Yes. If you go ahead and take a vote on approving, because and the way I understand the motion as it's drafted right now, you're authorizing the chair to sign the notice to proceed after review and approval by legal counsel. So you can vote on that today, and we can still kind of work out the details behind the scenes, unless you want to give a directive to sign the notice to proceed. But that's not the motion today. And I think it's important for you all to understand that the concept of the notice to proceed as it's being recommended, it's going to allow TransDev to start incurring charges on behalf of, as part of this transit service that they're going to provide for us. So it's a notice to proceed to start, ramping up, but ramping up means incurring charges and bills that we will eventually have to pay, we EPATs, right? And in my experience, notices to proceed are usually granted under what's already a master agreement or an agreement that's already in place, right? So you have the agreement, then you have the notice to proceed. But I'm also open to the idea of being educated that maybe in the transit industry, these notices to proceed are common and out of line with the contracts that I'm accustomed to seeing. But the notice to proceed that I saw and that I've seen as a proposal allows TransDev to start incurring charges and with no cap, no safety language for EPATs. And so we can work on modifying that notice to proceed, which would make it kind of like a mini contract, or we can just focus on the main contract and get that done. So I'm open to the idea of exploring the notice to proceed as long as it sufficiently covers EPATs and ultimately the county as well. And what I've seen so far doesn't get us there. And Reina and I talked about this at length, so we understand each other's position on this. And the ultimate goal for everyone is let's get this done as soon as possible. But my recommendation is let's just work on that contract, because ultimately it's the contract that matters, not the notice to proceed. Now that we have the material terms, as I said, you've heard about this transit agreement for a while now. But what you may not have heard is the terms have never been fully negotiated. There's not been a meeting of the minds as to what those terms are until now, recently. So now we just need to plug that into an agreement that I think we can get to translate very quickly.
So, Mr. Estrada, a notice to proceed is not going to interfere with the contract, but it may in fact be in place and be helpful if needed.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that's how staff sees it, right? Like the way they would view this notice to proceed as something that is helpful. And I agree with that. The only cautions that I'm putting out there for you all to consider is the notice to proceed, and I'm repeating myself, just want to make this clear, would be allowing TransDev to start incurring charges, right? And we would start incurring liabilities to them. And it's not capped. It doesn't have the safeguards that you usually have in a regular contract. So if we can come up with a notice to proceed that has that language, I think we can do that, as long as it doesn't deviate too much from having the actual contract done.
I have a question. I actually have a lot of information that I've been trying to piece together, and ultimately it's some questions that I'd like to ask council, but I'd like to do it in executive session on this because I do think it's sensitive and affects the LGC's position on a few things. And so I'm hoping that we can maybe take care of the other regular agenda items, then retire into executive to have that conversation.
Okay, so we'll come back to item A after we take care of the rest of the agenda.
And then, Mr. Estrada, will you help us form a motion to retire, so that we can retire into executive session on this? Is there anything we need to do specifically to do so?
No, when we come back to this item, it'll be a motion to go into executive session to discuss item 5A.
Okay.
That's the motion, and we'll just put it in the record that it's to consult with the attorney, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Then we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 5B. This is to discuss and take appropriate action to direct legal counsel to prepare a short-term interlocal agreement with Sun Metro for ADA paratransit services regarding roles and responsibilities. Interim ADA paratransit services. And just to inform the board, county staff did meet with Sun Metro as well as Michelle Garcia, vice chair, and the discussions were started on this item. And so the conclusion was that it would be in the best interest to develop a short-term interlocal agreement. So that way both entities are aware of what responsibilities for who's with regard to ADA paratransit services. And just earlier today, Mr. Rumkus did inform me that we say short-term interlocal, but if the board is to move forward with this request, then this interlocal agreement could be looked at as an amendment for the long term as well. So we won't have to do two separate interlocals.
Any members, any discussion? Carl?
Yes, so just to follow up on the item, what came out of that meeting was, as Mr. Estrada mentioned, the previous meeting for both parties to kind of come to an agreement on what terms they would like to see. So when we met last week, we discussed what those terms would look like, and the request was to put those in writing. So that's been done. So if the board grants Mr. Estrada the task to work on drafting the interlocal, we pretty much put all of our position on paper. So he just has to finalize it in the correct format. And as Annette said, we've talked about the long-term format, what that would look like. Once this interlocal is adopted, we would easily be able to come in amended for that long-term, whatever that's going to look like. So it makes sense in a lot of ways. One, so that we know who's responsible for what. It addresses our customers. It also addresses some of the ADA federal requirements. And then it lays the groundwork, so whatever our long term is, the table's already set. We don't have to set a whole new table. We just can come and change what needs to be changed. So it's in the best interest of all the parties right now to go and get this executed. Our goal is to have it executed, obviously, before the go live date. And so we've looked at the calendar, what would that look like? And the goal, I think, was to try to get this approved at your next board meeting in May.
Tell me again when the go live date is.
Right now, July 1st.
July 1st.
And Sun Metro, their mass transit board will be meeting in June. And it's, what day is that? June what?
June 4th.
June 4th. So the goal would be for that, for the interlocal to be on their board, at their board meeting.
Any more discussions to add, members? So, Mr. Estrada, we need action on this one.
Yes, Chair.
How would that motion?
A motion to approve that and to approve and direct legal counsel to prepare a short-term interlocal agreement with Sun Metro for ADA paratransit services regarding roles and responsibilities for interim ADA paratransit services.
I'll make that motion. Do we hear a second? Have a second?
Jessica, sir.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 5C, this is to discuss and take appropriate action on the future of Route 84. And I believe that Paso County staff has some items to report on this.
Annette, can you also read in item G? Because I think it relates to that one also.
Sure. Would you like, yes, and so item G is received an update on the pilot testing for reduction or removal of transit services for non-member entities. And David Cabrera with TTI does have a presentation on this as well. So I don't know if you want to hear that first before. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring up that presentation.
I assume Route 84 goes through Sucon.
Yes.
Yeah, you can sit right here if you'd like.
Well, this was it is part of a kickoff meeting we actually had last month. I didn't have the opportunity to present this last month for cancellation of a meeting, but
There you go.
all right. The first agreement we had is that the executive committee members were Michelle Ramirez, Jose Landeros, and Michael Medina. And I was one, I asked last month if we had, or we should include some other members to this committee, or just the three individuals there are okay.
And actually, Michelle Garcia, we'll make the correction
Yes.
for Ms. Garcia, although,
Okay.
did you not tell us?
All right. So we the first task is having an agreement on the whole program. We were supposed to start in February, but the task order was signed on March. So we try to make our calendar a little bit more or develop the task faster. We started with the kickoff meeting, and we had this task one on March, and then also the administration, the project administration is basically the whole month, the whole project, 6 months, and then we are right now in task 2, which is the industry review the standards and practices. We are going to develop the first draft policy for April. We are still that's another ongoing task, and we have, after that, we will develop, or we started actually developing the desktop pilot tests, and we'll explain this a little bit better in other slide. And that's why it's just the final documentation of that. So we know we have a deadline in August, so we are okay to complete the project on time. So
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? So the committees, you're planning a final recommendation in August? Is that what I understand?
Oh, you want to go back?
Yeah.
Right there?
One more. Yes, sorry.
So, your final policy documentation will be in August?
The final, yes, but we're having a draft. We are in the internal review right now, and then we're having a draft that we will submit to the executive committee members and get feedback. And actually, after that, we will complement that with task 4, which is the original destination and data collection we are actually developing right now. And then we are going to have the final version of the document by August. That's what I understood.
I might be premature in asking this,
yes.
But one of the questions that came up in my mind is once we make a decision on that route,
yes.
That doesn't include Socorro, if you have a call from a customer with an ADA issue, are we still by law required to pick that person up?
Well, this is to answer that question. I think we are right now doing the origin destination study. We are getting all the ridership from Paso County as well, and then we're gonna have. I had some other maybe if I explain with other sites, sure. Maybe I answer your question. Right now. We are in the outline. We have an outline for the first draft. We had an introduction, the purpose, the criteria for service removal, which includes already based on criteria like ridership, demand, obviously, financial viability, service efficiency, and accessibility and equity. We are also taking care of that. Alternative transportation options, or once if you remove that, what options do you have available as well? And contributions to the corporation is some issue that we also included in this document. We are reviewing right now the FTA and text of guidance regarding service reductions, and we also included the outline process for service removal, implementation and monitoring, review and revisions, compliance, and final approval and procedures, right? So this is the outline. We have, as I mentioned, an internal review TTI, and we are gonna be sharing this document in the coming day as well, by the end of this month, to be precise. Now, after that, we will, the members of the committee will review the draft document, and then we will have a second or analyze all the feedback from the members and prepare what we call the first draft, right? For the policy on service removal. Then task 4 is what actually we started with this because we need data for all this, the pilot test. And one of the data, as we saw, the criteria includes ridership and the whole demand or potential demand in those areas. So we are collecting data. I will say really quick, this is the ongoing, and during this pilot test, we have the ridership by stop, region, origin destinations, and other parameters we are going to cover. Right now, what we have is we asked for 2023 yearly ridership for entire county on all the routes, and then we have an average weekday, Saturdays and Sundays. So that's a sample we're gonna input also as a variable. And then we have been collecting data for around 30, 31, 40, and well, right now it's 40 and 50. I think it's the next couple of days with 50. And then next week we're gonna target Route 84. That actually we will need permission from Sun Metro to do that. And then develop that. Well, maybe this is too technical, right? But we are getting the origin destination. This is a map that probably answered also your question on Socorro, all the routes actually have a portion running by Socorro jurisdiction, right? It says basically route 30, 31, 40, 50, and 84, all of them pass by Socorro area. So this is.
I'm sorry, they pass by and also pick up and drop off?
Yes, that's where we are. I mean, I think it's too early to tell you this, but based on the videos we already collected for 30 and 31, yes, the answer is yes. Okay, and let me see. This is data collection. We installed some cameras, and then we're planning to do the same for Route 84 in Sun Metro. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. The advantage of this is that we just need one camera per vehicle, and Sun Metro, they have 2 doors, so we have to install two other cameras. With this, we are basically recording the whole amount of trips during the day, the entire day. We don't need staff just observing who is getting on and off the vehicle. So with this, we just set it up automatically and collect all the data for the whole day. And then we get, from the camera, we get the geolocation, the latitude and longitude. We have the time, we have all the parameters. And then I have an example right there. We have the passenger's origin. It detects the algorithm detects from the videos, detects the same person on and off, and provides the travel time and actually the distance, right? The miles traveled as well. And then from this, we have a sample here. This is a real match that the algorithm detects. You have a different person right there, is no match, and then if it matches, then you have the origin destination pair, and then you can know. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry, but you can have the latitude and longitude from the origin and destination and the whole trip for individual trips for every single passenger that uses all the routes. So that's what we are right now. We haven't analyzed the data yet. We're still collecting, but I'm pretty confident we're going to have exactly every origin destination pair for every single passenger, and then with the geolocation we can tell what portion of the ridership is in the Socorro area.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was more just to speak to item C, right? So I know that as TTI is evaluating all of this, I think we wanted to make sure that we get the reductions policy right. And a lot of this is going to be based on data that TTI is helping us collect. And so in consideration of that, staff had in conversations with the city, Sun Metro specifically, to ask if there was a way to extend the Route 84 proposed stop date to the end of the calendar year, just to give us time to finish up the study, advertise it, because I think if we find ourselves in a position in a few months that we're going to reduce service to a large area and we're going to have changes that might pick up those, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to let the public know. The last thing we want to do is be accused of cutting off service from one day to the next, which we may end up being accused of either way, but if we have a process that's been very deliberate, I think that'll be better for us. And I think it's just a more cautionary position to take. And so related back to item C, I think I'd like to see if there's a possibility of us making a motion to formally request that of the city so the city can evaluate that. I believe the conversations that have happened to this point have indicated that it is a possibility for us to do that, but it'll all start with us formally requesting that in writing through a motion of the board to the city.
Are you talking about making a request of the city of Socorro?
No, to the city of El Paso to extend because right now Route 84 is scheduled to end, I believe, at the end of the fiscal year.
August 31st, yeah.
Right, which is the city's fiscal year. And so we would ask that be extended for that remainder of the calendar year. We continue to provide funding for it, fund it, and then that just gives us time to make sure
further solidifies what you just said, is by being sure that we checked off all the boxes.
I think it's also just a natural, like the new calendar year is just a natural point, right? I think if we're gonna stop service with Route 84 and, with paratransit and everything, and we're not gonna serve Socorro anymore, we can say effective January 1. I think naturally in people's minds, it's a clean date to make that adjustment if we find ourselves in that position.
Yeah, so just to follow on what Mr. Landero said, what would happen is if you request that in writing from us, Metro agrees to that, the current interlocal renews on September 1st, and we would modify our notice of termination of that to be December 31st, if that does come in. So we're still going to have that interlocal effect, but the interlocal allows us the power to terminate with at least 60 days notice. So we'd be adjusting that. And in our last Mass Transit Department Board meeting, we did brief council on this. We briefed them with the August date. So that's why we're requesting a writing if you're requesting through December so that we can advise council to that effect.
And I just had one question. If you don't get a match, if you see no match, does that mean somebody got off, didn't get off, or got off?
And we are like 99% sure. We compare, obviously we have the videos to compare based on observation, but this process is using artificial intelligence. So we just, the algorithm processes the videos in a faster way and gives us the results right away. So it's something we can avoid, like being watching on the videos. But yeah, I mean, we are planning after getting our data to validate that as well. But yeah, it's almost 100% sure that we're getting all the matches only because the algorithm gets off the no matches. Yeah.
And I guess as we go on in the future, we'll have that question answered insofar as ADA requests after January 1st.
That'll be in the interlocal agreement that we're working on, which will be effective hopefully after our June meeting. So that'll contemplate all of the paratransit, notwithstanding what's in the interlocal for Route 84. So as long as the interlocal for Route 84 is in effect, that takes precedence for that area. Once that's terminated, then the entire service areas are under the interlocal.
But it'll be
clarified.
I believe, if I'm hearing correctly, concerned about ADA still being provided for the current Route 84 riders. The routes that were listed 30, 31, 50, 40 have overlapped with 84. So the riders that are currently using Route 84 for ADA paratransit won't be left without the possibility to use ADA paratransit. I believe we have a small gap that Route 84 was covering that isn't overlapped by those others, which could be a decision to still cover that area by the board. I think if that's what I'm understanding, your concern is that they're just losing ADA paratransit services.
Yeah, my concern is after the first of the year.
Right, so the other routes that are still there that we haven't decided what we're doing with yet will ADA paratransit requirements.
Well, that's good to hear.
Because the paratransit requirement falls on 3/4 of a mile from wherever your fixed routes are.
Yes.
So once you all make your final determination on what those fixed routes are, that's your service area for paratransit.
Actually, the only area that doesn't or don't overlap is this segment here and this segment here. Everything else is covered by other routes. So basically, Route 84 is right now being duplicated in some of the other segments of other routes.
And Claudia, one from Metro.
Yes. Your director at XLTSD.
So, in talking with the county planners, we're under the understanding that the other routes, not the route that Socorro may or may not have, if they join or don't join, already overlap most of what 84 does. And so the rule by FTA is that you have to cover 3/4 of a mile from the routes or stops. And so most of the area will be covered by that. There may be gaps along the way that are not covered. You may or may not have ADA qualified people in those. However, the board can vote to cover those gaps even a little bit more than 3/4 of a mile. For instance, in the city of El Paso, since the city's grown and routes don't go all the way into the corner, we cover the entire city, even though it may be a little bit outside of the 3/4 of a mile. So if you don't want to leave people out of the covered area, you have the ability to change it a little bit more out of the 3/4 of a mile and cover everybody that potentially needs to be covered for ADA. You have the ability to change that. In this setting, the board would probably be the body that determines that when you vote. So it could be in the interlocal agreement while we're deciding in the midterm of how we're going to do the coverage, and then in the long term when we do that, it can be amended or short-term interlocal agreements and long-term interlocal agreements, so that we don't have people that are ADA qualified being left out. And so solidifying the interlocal agreements, the way ahead, I think in everybody's mind is not to leave those citizens out in the cold, so to speak.
I just have a question for David. In regard to where you're going to be gathering the data, how is the installation of those cameras? Because as they buses. So unless it's something that is an easy install, uninstall, we will be able to.
We thought about that, but our only concern is to, well, we probably will be sending someone to take a look, because if it's really easy to grab and then just go, because they are GoPro cameras. So if they are recording, we have no problem on leaving there, but yeah, we need so we're thinking of sending a student to just observe the camera all the time.
So
yeah.
For two things. One, if we're going to allow to do that, I don't initially see a problem with it. Second of all, we already have cameras on the bus, we provide most of that information. And we're clearly on board to support and do whatever we can, but we have to work out the details on that.
Can we distribute something on board? That's why I wanted, this is the first time that they were asking to install something, so that it would be something.
Yeah, the plan B is just getting it manually. It takes longer, but it's doable. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
I just want to make one note. So when you get your termination policy and you decide if you are or you're not, or whatever you're going to decide, Title VI requires you to do an equity analysis. So you have to have an equity to do the analysis again. So for example, in El Paso, we did Sunday service during COVID. So we had to do an analysis about the Title VI impact on the protected population of El Paso to prove that we didn't unilaterally disenfranchise or discriminate against a population. Okay, that's an example. And then secondly, when we came back and made the streetcar free, we used to charge for the streetcar. We made it free, which is a better position. We still had to do an equity analysis. So no matter whether it's a good thing for the people or a bad thing for the people, you're required to do an equity analysis for every single change that you make. So it's imperative with this termination policy, you need an equity policy first to compare whatever y'all decide is equitable. Like we're going to cut 10% of the routes. That's our, anything more than that is not acceptable. Or we're going to cut 10% of the ridership, or whatever the number is, 20%, 50%. But you have to have a policy. So when you make these decisions, when you do your equity analysis for the FTA, right, Claudia, you have something to document.
In the outline, we are including actually the equity policy here.
The policy?
Yeah, it's something we're covering right now. This is the outline of the policy removal policies. We are working on that, and part of what we are analyzing is the equity analysis and the policy.
And how are you going to analyze if they don't have a policy?
No.
Well, we are
just taking care of the policy, but obviously we are gonna set exactly, we're gonna set the rules or the criteria.
That is the policy.
Exactly, yes.
I'm glad you brought that up, that we are in fact incorporating that. Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Estrada, do we need action on this one?
Yes, we do. Mr. Landeros, I'm going to read a proposed motion, but you tell me that covers what you and staff want to see happen. But before I read the motion, you want to request from the city that they extend the Route 84 service through what date exactly?
Through December 31st, 2024.
Okay, so motion to approve that the chair formally requests from the city of El Paso that it extend the Route 84 service through December 31st, 2024. That's the motion.
So you might want to tweak that to say, so we've already notified you that we're going to terminate on August 31st, or at least that was our letter that we drafted. You're actually requesting us to change the termination date of the letter. If we get into service extension and all that, we're becoming redundant on the interlocal, which renews September 1. So I think what you're asking us to do is change the date of our notice of termination.
Okay.
To reconsider.
Yeah, to
reconsider.
Correct. To reconsider through December 31st, because I don't want to step on the agreement itself.
Okay, so a motion to approve that the chair formally requests from the city of El Paso that it reconsider the termination date of the Route 84 service and termination date
From August 31st.
From August 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. There we go.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second? I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I didn't hear anybody from the.
We heard him.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, does that also, do we cover item G?
We were posted for action on that one.
Yeah.
But it's just a presentation. Yeah.
Okay. That. All right. So then. Just sorry. So we're going on to D. Agenda item 5D is to discuss and take appropriate action to authorize the addition of a cell phone for ADA paratransit services customer service, and this is at the request of county staff.
So we had gone through the channels that we normally have gone through when we add a transit line. So that would be first to ask TechStat if it would be approved. And so that was approved, but then after going through internal county processes, purchasing had mentioned that we need to place this on Commissioner's Court. So I wanted to make sure that we also place it here. So we have approval here on the LGC, and then we'll have Commissioner's Court approval on the 22nd, I believe that's next Monday's Commissioner's Court. So just to make sure that both parties approve. So this is just to add that ADA dedicated separate line from fixed route, paratransit customer service, which as of right now we'll keep in-house. And so when we do the wraps on the vans, that number will be separate than what the number we have currently on the buses.
And is it for cell phone? Is the driver will have that?
Well, it's because it's in-house right now. So we'll be handling customer service, right?
So, okay, so that the reason for a cell phone is compared to a landline.
Right, we don't have the landline, and then my concern is with the landline as we move forward, and who we are not sure, even with the big RFP, who will get the contracted services, how that would be handled as giving them the landline. But right now, it's because it's internal, we don't have a landline to dedicate it, I believe, with the county. So we're gonna have the cell phone line.
That'd be housed here?
Yes, with county staff.
Would that be easier than requesting a specialized line here? It would. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And we'll move on to agenda item 5E. This is where we will receive an update on the El Paso Area Transportation Services Local Government Corporation Access Advisory Committee meeting that was held on March 22nd, 2024. And Susie, I believe, was going to report this out from TTI. Okay.
Susie, did you want to do this or did you want me to give the update?
I thought that you were going to give the update.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize, Susie. I'm sorry for the spot. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. So Michael Walk with TTI, and I'm really responding or on behalf of Tina Gasprecht, who is the lead on public engagement for the ADA Paratransit Plan. So I'm giving you the comments she gave to me. So if I say anything wrong, Susie, you can also correct me on that too. But yeah. So there was actually two meetings, right? There was a March 1st meeting and a March 22nd meeting with the, I guess I can come over here so that you guys don't have to crank your necks. Sorry about that. With the Access Advisory Committee on the March 1st meeting, the committee reviewed and adopted the bylaws of the Access Advisory Committee. They selected a chair and a vice chair, right? So they also discussed the dates and times for all the public meetings that are coming up for the public to engage on the ADA Paratransit Plan. The Access Committee was also briefed on the general premise of the public engagement. So how we're going to do public engagement around the ADA Paratransit Plan. And the committee gave good feedback, things that were incorporated into the final public engagement plan. So that was the gist of the March 1st meeting. The March 22nd meeting, the committee, now they're complete. There's 9 members, right, on the committee. So now the AAC is complete in terms of membership, and the public meeting dates and the times and locations for the public engagement on the ADA Paratransit Plan were selected, and they're already scheduled. Locations, times, all of that information is now final and official. And in fact, live on the website and all that kind of thing. So those were the key updates on the AAC. I think the bottom line is things are moving ahead very well with the Access Advisory Committee, and it's becoming a well-established organization with very active membership. So.
Okay. Alexis, I have a question for you. I know that some questions and some responses came from the back. Will the mics pick them up?
Yes, sir. The mic is right here. So as long as they speak loud enough, it should be able to.
So we're okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Commissioner, if I may add to Michael's presentation, the dates that we have identified. I should have brought you a page. I should have brought the entire board a page to see where the locations are going to be. But if any board member is available for any of these meetings, it would be ideal for a board member to be present. I think that was part of our discussion in terms of having membership. So I don't know if I looked right at the landing page, but I couldn't get in. So 27. Oh, here we go. So on April the 27th, we'll have it at Mountain View High School, and I believe that one is going to be thank you, from 9 to 11. And on the 29th of April, which is a Monday, that will be from 6 to 8 p.m. And that's going to be at the Mission Campus for El Paso Community College. And then the last one will be at El Paso Community College on the 30th. No, I'm sorry, there's 2 that are going to be happening. I apologize. El Paso Community College Northwest Campus from 6 to 8 p.m. on the 30th, which is Tuesday. And then the last one will be on the 30th as well, and that one's going to be a virtual meeting, and they're going to have that one actually in the morning from 10 to 12. So perhaps maybe Andrea, maybe if you're available for the 30th at the Northwest Campus, if it's not too far from you, that would be great, and then we can see who would want to split up the other 2.
Can you email all this information to us?
Yes.
And we don't want a quorum to show up
Correct, we would just want one member for the meeting, so 1, 2, 3 meetings, yes.
Right. How, and just to give you some greater flexibility though, if you have more than one board member who wants to attend where there might be a quorum, all we have to do is post a notice of possible quorum at the meeting, alert the public that there might be a quorum of this board at that meeting. And everyone can attend with the understanding that you're not going to take any action or discuss matters that should be discussed here. But you can do both.
And if somebody chooses to go to the meetings to centralize, can we just go through you and that?
Yes, sir. I can get the scheduling. Yes,
Thank you.
Anything else, Steph? No? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So this will take us down to agenda item 5F, and this is once again an update on the annual budget for fiscal year 2024. It's been some time now, but I believe it was in February. County staff met, as well as both county staff, Mayorga, as well as Mr. Landeros and myself. We met with the auditor's office virtually through a meeting, and this was with Ms. Dominguez, Ramona Dominguez, and Bianca Valenzuela, and just kind of laid the groundwork in terms of how the funding has been achieved so far in terms of payments from the participating communities, and then wanting to have a discussion in terms of how we look at the budget for 24, but also getting ourselves ready for 25. Mr. Landeros, was there anything else to add to that?
Related to the idea of the annual budget, right? I think part of the conversation that that I've had with Ned and with our county staff has been that the role of the COG as the administrative and fiscal agent was supposed to be a landing place for finances and kind of build on the administrative support that the COG lends other agencies like the Far West Texas Water Planning Group. But the COG has its own mission, its own set of responsibilities, and I think we've, much to your credit, Annette, you've kind of gone above and beyond in stepping in and providing a lot of senior administrative support to the process. But I feel that support oftentimes needs to be housed in a position that actually kind of works for the LGC, right? And so not necessarily Annette as the ED of the COG, but as someone who can be in the meetings and can kind of be that transit person, effectively equivalent to, the work that David Armijo does for the South Central Regional Transit District, where he's the executive director of that agency, like Mr. DeKaiser for Sun Metro. And so it's in that interest that staff had looked into whether there was capacity in the funds that we receive from TxDOT to fund our program, whether there was funding available to create a new position and whether or not it was permissible to do so. And it seems based on the analysis that staff has done that there is room for that. And so as we move forward with finalizing the budget, I know it's funny to be talking about finalizing FY24 budget in April. But I think for this year and even for next year, I think we should include some senior position. I don't know if it's a director or what the title is, but another staff person that is our official staff liaison to the board, to interface with the COG, to interface with county staff, to interface with legal, to really be kind of the face of the LGC. Right now we rely on county staff to do that, but that staffing is limited to what their authority is as our transit planning staff. But I think in some cases what Annette has provided is kind of that director level of support. And I think we do need someone in that role working for us collectively as the LGC, right? Not as the county, but as the LGC. And so whether that position is housed in the county or whether that position is maybe funded to the COG and we increase the fees to the COG so that the COG can onboard that person, I think those are some things that we can discuss. But I do think that we probably need that support as we go forward so we can be as successful as we can be, right? So we can really hit the mark on what we're trying to do here with expanding access to transit.
I agree with that. I think that we probably should have, would you staff be able to give us the requirements?
Well, I think what probably would be a potential setup is that this person could work under the council of governments, follow our policies, procedures, they would receive our benefits, but I think that's where it probably would stop for that person would be somewhat autonomous, so that way they can do the LGC work. Because at this point, we're serving as your fiscal agent as well, so and there have been times where perhaps maybe just seeing the situation for what it is, maybe someone else probably would have had a better position to make a decision than to put myself in that position. So I think that we could definitely work at that, knowing that would be something that could be considered maybe a short term, because I could see where the LGC would evolve to where you're a standalone agency and the council of governments would back out at that point. So that's something we could definitely look at.
Then where this person's house is.
They could have rehouse it ourselves. But again, I think the clear understanding would be that person would have autonomy, but they would actually answer to the LGC.
And even the county staff eventually. I think right now organizationally, I think we're taking baby steps here, but I mean big picture. I think the LGC absorbs the county staff that are assigned to public transit, so that we don't have this. I think right now we're in a very collaborative space, but in the event that we got to a place where there wasn't as much collaboration, I think the LGC as an organization would feel confident knowing you have staff working for the LGC and not for any one agency. And these are natural growing plains, like the MPO, for example, for years was housed in the city's planning department and eventually became a standalone entity with its own staff. And the city still provides fiscal and HR and other support to the agency, but effectively the MPO has its own brand and its own identity and its own staff. And so I think this might be the first steps in doing that. My question is, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to evaluate that in the existing budget that we have to bring that person on. I think there's going to be some questions that need to be answered in terms of funding, like can that person come on? Can we continue to use the funding to give it to the MPO, or is there a requirement from the granting agency, in this case TxDOT, that position be housed at the county for now until we figure something out? I think if we work through those questions and come back with answers to that would be helpful. And I know that wasn't kind of the update generally, but I think we've had, but it obviously is related back to the budget.
You've done a good job.
Right, walking that line. But
it's almost like our attorney. We transition from
right.
So in the future, as we move forward, I think those are very important. That we need another rein on another business.
And they're ultimately going to provide that support to transit and just be focused on transit, because they know that there's a number of issues that are ongoing with the LGC, and we're trying to kind of herd people to be in meetings, right? Like last week, the meeting with Sun Metro about for the meetings we've been having on ADA paratransit. I think if we had, as the board, kind of our for the county equivalent, our Betsy working for us, then providing direction to staff and providing direction to all of our consultants and everything, I think we'll be more successful. So if there's a way to kind of answer some of the questions that I think we need to answer about whether it's too late for this fiscal year, maybe we're waiting until October, if we can still do that, maybe get started on some sort of recruitment soon, I think that would be very beneficial for all of us.
Any discussion?
I have a question on the budget and when we can anticipate the estimates for.
Yes. Well, so I think that there's just so many different ways to go about doing this. So Michael, I'm thinking with the budget for 2024, one possible position that we can take is we could get the money back to El Paso County. That's one way that we can do that. Would you mind explaining that process, Michael? Just if we give the money back to them, then they can show how they're paying their portion, and it might be cleaner. And I'm gonna have Michael stand up and explain that part, just put him on the spot. Because I want to do it and he's gonna do a much better job, so I'd rather just have him.
Yeah, so Michael Walker with TTI. So the idea was, given that the county is the grant holder when it comes to all of the grants, federal grants and state grants, when it comes to transit, then, and the county is the one that has to seek reimbursement and also provide local match. When the local matching funds are being retained by EPATs and separate, like a COG account, then the county essentially has to bill, when the county gets reimbursed by, the text dot, then the county has to use their own money to cover the local match, and then try to get some of that local match back from through a separate transaction. The idea that was, just floated through casual conversation was, well, why not take the money that the COG is holding and set it up in a separate account managed by the county so that it's there and the county doesn't have to bill the COG every time it's trying to match the federal grants, because the match and county managed fund that would be reported out on a regular basis, et cetera. So that reduces the transaction for anything that's funded through the grants that the county holds. That was the idea that you put in. Yeah, I conveyed that.
So, but I don't know if this is the right thing to say also, but I think that internally we've also been discussing the possibility of even having the LGBT subrecipient. So I think that also helps with what you were trying to kind of say, because if we were kind of transitioned in a sense, then we would still, I guess, be applying for these grants, but the LGC would be receiving the grants. And so that would also make it easier with transactions and billing and for services and whatnot. So I think also the RFP that's being written has language to say that the contracts can be transferred over. So that if we get to that point, then also the LGC would be holding the transit service agreements as well.
And so in terms of the timeline, I guess I would caution the board that we potentially might not have this ready until close to the end of the fiscal year. And I know that can have consequences trying to close up the books for both the county and the council of governments, but I think there's going to have to be several meetings that we have to really do a lot of work on to decide how that's going to happen with the auditor's office.
You can come back with a report for this body. But you're right, I think we're now starting to transition over to policy, this board, instead of operations. That then we grow out of operations and work overseeing policy.
But my goal will be to have a different agenda item for the meeting. Yes, with regard to the budget.
And share and board members, just for what it's worth, as legal, when I meet with Annette, we do discuss the status of the budget, and we've been talking about it since we came on board. And the truth is, the type of budget that they're trying to put together and prepare is very different from the budgets that you are used to in your entities, for the reasons that they've articulated. The funding, who's the recipient, the sub-recipients, whose money goes where, and how that gets allocated, and what needs to be done so that all the parties are compliant. It's a very different budget than what you're used to dealing with. So there's a lot of complexity to it that they're kind of working through for the first time. And as I told Annette early on, it's and this kind of relates back to some of the matters that Mr. Landeto's raised and transit staff. It's part of the growing pains. As a matter of fact, I don't think the EPATs in the past, and I may be wrong, but I don't think they've ever officially adopted a budget. And so now we're doing that, or they're working on doing that so that we get to the point where we can formulate an annual budget, annually with no problems. But they're kind of the first ones that are working through how do we do one now, knowing that the funds come from the feds and entities, and I mean, I don't understand it all at all, but it's just very complex. And so.
But then, and it also goes back to just knowing what role the Council of Governments is taking, where we're not overstepping and making unilateral decisions on behalf of the LGC without having these kinds of conversations with the board, or at least our officers.
Any more conversation? Sure.
Okay. All right. So then, let's see. We already discussed this item.
H.
Yes. So on H, 5H is discuss and take appropriate action on adopting a meeting schedule for the executive committee meetings. And as David presented earlier, we do have only 3 members serving on the committee because of, we want to make sure we don't hit quorum. So that's why we had that number limited, but it is Michelle Garcia, Mike Medina, and Jose Landeros. And so we're proposing to have these meetings 2 weeks prior to our board meeting. And so that way you all can take whatever actions necessary and be ready for the board meeting in the next 2 weeks. And so these are the proposed dates. I don't have a time to offer, but if this is amenable to the group, I would ask for that schedule to be considered and a motion to be made. And if anybody wanted to add a time on there, we could do that as well.
Just for the members.
I was the board would consider approving the schedule, but then also allow the committee to adjust that if it doesn't work because Mike's not here, and then allow us to set the time as well.
I'll just note that those are the same dates as the TPAC meeting. MOA usually in the mornings.
And I think that was the other concern that we had. So it was, if it's the executive committee, can they meet virtually or do they have to meet in person? Have to be.
You know what, we had referenced those issues, but I don't think, I haven't really looked into those yet. I think ideally we'd like to arrive at the conclusion that they don't have to be posted. If we kind of continue to make sure that the executive committee is, for example, for the MPO, their executive committee, they do comply with the Texas Open Meetings Act. And so does TPAC. But that's, a much larger organization and those committees have been long established. So depending on what we confirm is going to be the role of the executive committee for now, if it continues to be mostly or almost exclusively advisory, where, those decisions aren't being, like where they're not where they don't have final decision-making authority, we can probably get away with not having to post. But I will need to get back to you with that confirmation. But if the executive committee in the future evolves to where like their recommendations are almost likely to be accepted by the full board because it comes from the executive committee, we may have to switch that approach. And there's nothing wrong with that, but since we're just now starting, I'm almost willing to say that it's going to be possible that we can say that you don't have to post those meetings as long as there's obviously not a quorum of this board on that board, which there isn't. So I need to get back to you based on some further analysis. But
and the purpose of the first item to deal with in terms of the executive committee would be the reduction, because that's what we had asked in the previous one. So we already have items for you all to review.
Yes.
Immediate action on these dates.
We presented it as an action item. I don't know if it's necessary at this point, but we do need to have this established so that we can get going with the reduction.
It almost seems to me that unless there's a specific reason for why this board needs to approve the schedule of the executive committee, perhaps we can just leave that to the executive committee to approve their meeting schedule.
Could it just be say to approve like the scheduling, the proposed schedule, like just the scheduling of, and then they look at amongst themselves?
Yes, I think what we can do, and tell me if this satisfies your needs. Motion to approve the proposed executive committee schedule as presented, subject to necessary changes by the executive committee. Meaning you're kind of delegating them the authority to change it if they have to. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll make that motion. Need a second. have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. And the last agenda item that I have before we go into executive session is to discuss and take appropriate action to schedule a June meeting. We have that already scheduled for June 19th, but that is a holiday. So I would ask if you can reconsider another date. And to just keep in mind, some metros or the Mass Transit Board will meet on the 4th of June. So I think it'd still be within the timeline that we wanted for that July 1st start date to have the interlocals set. We just have to decide on what day you want to have this meeting in June. But I know that our goal is to have the interlocal presented to you in May, and then it goes to the mass transit. But as a fallback, we still have a meeting in June that we could get that approved as well.
Okay, but you're saying that 19th is Juneteenth?
Yes, sir. Except for the 19th, because the others will not be here.
The 18th or the 20th, would that be?
We have a special session on the 20th, so
18th. The 18th sounds, is that acceptable?
I won't be in town. I can probably doing virtual, but.
And then Andrea, Susie, the 18th of June.
That works for me.
That works for. Okay. And, then we just need a motion to approve the June meeting for the 18th.
Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to approve the 18th of June for our next meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. And so the next item would be the executive session.
So you're going back to item 5A, and you need a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice and guidance on item 5A.
Okay, now is your motion? I'll make that motion. I heard a motion.
Andrea, did you make the motion?
No, but I can. I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And then just for the record, we're going into executive session under section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. So,
Yes, training
right.
and safeguard that.
Yes, okay.
I'm Andy. I said just on
Thank you, Mayor.
yes, sir. I'm specifically making sure that we. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so then, let's see, should I,
A motion to come out of executive?
okay, do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So, second. We have a motion, a second. All those in favor to come out of executive? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm sorry, Ray, I'm always looking at you.
I know. And I'm like, yeah. I can't say it, but I'm like, yeah, I agree.
All right, so then, moving back to our agenda, we have 5A that we still need to take action on or make a decision on.
There's no action.
There's no action on 5A.
All right, no action. Okay, so then, that will take us to item 7, which is adjournment.
We are adjourned.
Do we have a motion?
Do we have to have a motion?
You do, but, no one follows that. But you have a quorum, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody opposed to?
I will tell you that I learned